Well, hey everybody! It's that time of the week again. Of course, was out doing some stuff last night, so you know didn't get a chance to record this uh, kind of overnight when I normally do, and then you know post it up later on. So I'm doing this kind of early afternoon, early afternoon. Now that daylight savings is kicked back in and we've sprang forward. We're another week of the Power Performance Index, and one interesting change at the bottom. Number 32, they dropped 7 spots. They were looking good, and then not so much. And it's just the never ending rebuild continues. Buffalo. So the Sabres, they trade Dylan Cousins at the trade deadline. They get some pieces, but they're still. I guess I don't know. I don't know if they're ever gonna. I don't know if they're ever gonna get out of this rut that they're in. But it is just. It's not looking that great for Buffalo. Number 31. Now they move up 1 spot. They've actually played halfway. They actually had a decent week. They went 2-2 on the week, and it's San Jose. I mean they're doing better. I mean, they're still not. Like when I look at the standings, they're still not. They still haven't. They're 3 wins away from 17, so it's kind of like 3 wins away from 20. So they're still a little ways away from there, but they are starting to kind of play a little bit better. So San Jose's kind of hanging in there. So I mean, they actually move up a spot. Shocking. Number 30, dropping 2. They have lost 4 in a row, and yeah, they're definitely not making the playoffs. And I don't know what you do to necessarily fix Pittsburgh. The Penguins are just, I don't know. I don't know. The Penguins are, they're, they didn't, I mean, they made a couple of moves at the trade deadline, but not a whole lot. And it just, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they remedy what they're going through, but yeah, it's not a good time right now in Pittsburgh. Just like it's not a good time with the team at 29, who is their fellow Pennsylvania mate, and that's Philadelphia. The Flyers, the same thing. I mean, they've dropped 3 in a row. The Penguins dropped 4 in a row. The Flyers have dropped 3 in a row, and they're just, they traded away Scott Laughton to Toronto, and they're just Philadelphia, a lot like Pittsburgh. It's going to be. I mean, do you retool? I mean, is this technically a rebuild that Philly's going on? What I don't know. Pittsburgh, I think, is more of a retool, or they're going to try to do more of a retool. But Philadelphia might just, they're kind of in the middle of kind of a tear down and trying to build back up. Number 28. Now they move up 3 spots. They've been fun to watch. These guys are they're bad, but they're not. They're in a lot of these games, and Chicago is looking a lot better. They're definitely a fun team to watch. They're entertaining, and they're in a lot of these games, and they're doing what they can. I mean, they're still, they did hit 20 wins finally, so they hit 20 wins. But I mean, they're still a team that's going to be in the draft lottery, and it's just, we'll see what they, it's definitely a look till next year, but they're fun. They're fun to watch. Number 27. Now, I thought about actually switching Chicago with these guys. because, I mean, it's definitely a surprise where these guys are. 27, and it's Boston. So Boston, they trade away some pieces. They traded away their captain. That shocked me. They actually traded Brad Marchand, and that shocked that I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I thought, are you kidding? But they did. Boston is, I think this year is proving, this year's definitely, I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs. I think this year is kind of a year that Boston, kind of a blip on the radar. I think next year they'll be a lot better. Swayman will have a full training camp and everything else. And so, yeah, I think this year Boston this is just kind of a blip. I expect Boston to be much better next year. Number 26, moving up 4 spots. Now, where was this? Where's this been most of the year? Nashville. So Nashville's won 3 in a row. And again, where's this been? That's the kind of play we expected from the Predators most of the year, but we haven't seen it. They've been so inconsistent. Imagine if they were in a meaningful position to try to compete for a playoff spot right now. If they were doing this, if they were doing this most of the year, they would be in that race for a playoff spot. But they haven't been. So, but it's good that they're getting some wins in. So, they're still in the bottom row, but I mean, if they can keep this going, if they can move up a little bit. Number 25. Now they move up 4 spots too, even though they didn't have that great of a week. And again, I thought about flip-flopping Nashville with this team, which I probably should have, but Seattle. So the Kraken, sneeze fest there all of a sudden hit me. So the Kraken, back to the Kraken. The Kraken, they went 1-2 on the week. They're 4-5-1 in the last 10. They're a team too. They're not going to make the playoffs. They did some selling at the trade deadline. But, again, and Seattle's one of those teams. I expected a lot more from them. And hopefully next year they'll give what was, kind of expected this year. Maybe they'll give that next year. Number 24. Now they're a team, they flirt with 500. They get to 500, but they can't seem to get over it and maintain it. And that's Anaheim. The Ducks are a team that they flirt with being good, and then they fall apart. They're just, the consistency isn't there. But they're another fun team to watch. And again, they get close to 500. They get close to NHL 500, and then they fall back. They might hit the 500 mark and then fall back. Hit the 500, fall back. That's kind of what they've been doing most of the year. And that's kind of where they are right now. And it's got them number 24. Number 23. Now, they've won 2 in a row. And even though they've won 2 in a row, they ended up dropping a couple of spots. The Islanders. So the New York Islanders are a team too. They are a team that is, they're a team too. They flirt with getting toward the playoffs. I mean, when you look at the standings, they are only 3 points. I mean, they're only 3 points out of the second wild card, but there's so many teams in front of them. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3. There's four teams in front of them for that wild card spot, and Columbus right now has the number 2 wild card spot. So I don't know. The Islanders are a team. They're there, but there's still a lot of time left. But we'll see what they can do. But we'll have to. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs or not, but I think they'll make a mad push, but we'll see. Number 22. Now, this is a team that's ahead of the Islanders in the standings, and they moved up a couple of spots, even though they've kind of hit a little bit of a rut, and that's Montreal. So the Canadiens are a team that is hanging in there. They're only 2 points out of that wild card. The race for the 2 wild card spots in the East is insane. I mean, you have Ottawa and Columbus right now have the 2 wild card spots, but then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 other teams that are within 3 points of that wild card spot. Montreal is one of them. It's a race. It's a race. There's a lot of games left, and it's going to be a dogfight to see who gets those 2 wildcard spots in the East. Number 21. Now this is a team. Boy, this is the worst time to start getting just devastated with injuries. And I mean, as of right now, they're still in a playoff spot. They're still 3rd in their division, but boy, I don't know if they're gonna stay there. New Jersey is just, I mean, the injuries have just ruined them right now. I mean, Jack Hughes is out for the year. Siegenthaler is out for the year. I don't know. I mean, talk about the wrong time to get hit with the injury bug. And if they are not careful, they could drop out into a wild card spot, because as of right now, looking at the standings, Columbus and the New York Rangers are not that far behind them. They're only 4. I mean, they're both only 4 points behind them. So New Jersey could very easily drop out of that 3rd spot where they've been most of the year. It wouldn't surprise me unless they find a way. I mean, unless they find a way to get healthy real quick. I don't know. I'm not liking New Jersey's chances. Number 20. Now they've won 2 in a row. They moved up 3 spots, and this is another team. They're a team that's very, they've quietly found themselves in a playoff spot. Ottawa. So the Senators. Again, I would love to see the Senators make the playoffs. I think that would be fantastic. It would be phenomenal if they could get in. Again, we have a long way to go yet, but Ottawa is looking decent right now. They went and made some moves. They picked up Dylan Cousins at the trade deadline. They're hanging in, and they're looking decent. And it would be fantastic if the Senators could find their way into a playoff spot. Number 19. Now this is a team that wouldn't shock me if they did find their way into a playoff spot, because they're right there, and they've been hot recently. They moved up 1 spot, and that's St. Louis. St. Louis is 7-1-2 in their last 10. So they're quietly moving up, and it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if they found a way to get in. It would not surprise me in the least. And, especially if they keep on the run that they're on, I can see them end up in the 2nd row here possibly next week. Wouldn't surprise me. They're looking pretty decent. And again, watch them come playoff time. If they make the playoffs, that could be a very interesting team to have to deal with. Number 18. Now, they looked so good, and they're still not really out of it, but they have really fallen off the map. I mean, they've lost 5 straight, and they dropped 8 spots. Detroit. I mean, yeah, they were looking relatively comfortable. They were in the number 1 wild card spot. They were looking, it's like, hey, if they can keep up the momentum, they're looking good. And yeah, they've lost 5 in a row, and they're right now out of that playoff spot. They're on the outside looking in. And it's, and they don't have any games in hand on the 2 playoff teams ahead of them. So I don't know. I mean, Detroit's got to figure something out, but could Detroit turn it around? Of course they could. Will they? That's the $64 question here. Number 17. Now they move up one spot. They've won 2 in a row. And again, this team here is so schizophrenic. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot, but again, they are so schizophrenic, it's crazy. Vancouver. The Canucks are just, I don't know what, I don't know. The fan base in Vancouver, that's a rabid fan base. They go and they have a run like they had last year, and they all think, "Hey, we're better than what we're better than what they really are." They think that the team is better than the team really is. And I mean, if you listen to Shannon talk about Vancouver, I mean, he lays it out pretty well, and he's not wrong. Vancouver is just one of those teams that just, I don't know. I don't know what you do with them. I don't know what you do about them, but they're just, they're there, they're not, they're there. It's just the consistency. Everybody, Pettersson's horrible. Pettersson's evil. Pettersson's, dog crap. Get rid of Pettersson. What's that going to do for your team? I don't know. It's interesting times in Vancouver every year. Number 16. Now they dropped 4 spots, but they're looking better. They're looking better, and they're still locked in 3rd in their division, and that's LA. So the Kings are, I don't know. With the LA Kings, it's really hard to figure out with them. I mean, right now they look again like they're on a collision course with the Edmonton Oilers in a first-round matchup again, which would be, 3 years in a row? And it's looking like that's entirely possible. And I think LA is, I mean, nobody's going to favor them, obviously, against the Oilers, but, I mean, they could give the Oilers some hell come playoff time. But, can they move up? I don't know. I mean, what are they? They're 5 points behind Edmonton? Yeah, I don't know. But, the Kings are 16. Number 15. Now, they moved up a couple of spots. They went 2-0-2 on the week, and they occupy that second wildcard spot. And that's Calgary. So the Flames have the number 2 wildcard spot right now, and they're looking halfway decent. They're looking halfway decent. They have their moments, but they've been better. They've been better, and can they keep up? Can they keep it going and maintain that playoff spot? We'll have to see. I mean, they're in that playoff spot. They are 1 point ahead of both Vancouver and St. Louis. Number 14. Now they moved up a couple of spots, and they're right there too for that playoff race. They're only 4 points behind for that wild card spot, and that's Utah. So the Utah Hockey Club, who hopefully will have a permanent name soon, and hopefully it won't be Hockey Club, but Utah. I mean, how huge would it be for Utah if they made the playoffs? I think that would be a lot. That would be pretty cool if they could find a way to make the playoffs their first year in Utah. Will it happen? I don't know, but Utah's look pretty decent. Utah's looking pretty good right now, and we'll see if they can keep that momentum. Speaking of, not exactly looking good. Not exactly looking good. And I just think I can see them completely drop out of the playoffs just because it's what the state does. Minnesota, shockingly, they're still in the second. They're in the second row, but boy, oh boy, they have dropped out of third because I think anybody who is a true Minnesota sports fan knows most of this season. I mean, they've been wrecked by injuries. Kaprizov being out, Kaprizov may be out for probably the rest of the regular season, and it's entirely possible for the Minnesota Wild. I could see them drop out. I really could. I could see them completely fall out of the playoffs, and it would not shock me because it's Minnesota. It's the Minnesota thing to do. Number 12, a team that I think could end up in the playoffs because they've been looking pretty good recently too, even though they've lost their last 2 games in overtime. That's the New York Rangers. So the Rangers at 12, they're much better. They're definitely much better than what they were, when they were going through that stretch where they won like 4 of 20, and it was insane what they were. They were struggling. They were not looking great, and they have gotten themselves back into the playoff race. And right now, they were in one of those playoff spots. They are right now. They're on the outside looking in, but they're tied in points with Columbus for the number 2 spot. So, can the Rangers overcome Columbus to get that spot? Maybe. Speaking of Columbus, at number 11, Columbus is a team I really want to see them get in. I really want to see them get in. I think they deserve to get in. I've said it time and time again, with everything that they've gone through this season, for them to make the playoffs would be incredible. And would definitely be ahead of schedule, I think, because did anybody really expect Columbus to be in this position, to be competing for a playoff spot? I didn't really think so, but here they are, and I would love to see them get in. And yeah, they're number 11 right now. Number 10, getting into the top 10, breaking back into the top 10 after a hellacious. Well, what was it? What was it? They lost 5 in a row, 6 in a row at one point, and now they're back in the top 10, and they're on a 2-game winning streak, and that's the Oilers. So Edmonton, big win last night against Dallas. Again, they had to hold on. They had to hold on against Dallas, but they held on. They held on, and the Oilers are. They're going to be a team they're going to be a force. It's going to be interesting to see, not only who they play when it comes to the playoffs, but if you look at even though they're in second place, they're not that far out of first, which is shocking, but they're still within striking distance of that. And the Oilers are, I think the Oilers, if they can, start turning it on, they're a team that could be very dangerous. Now, a team that can look very dangerous at times, and then other times not so much, because they've lost 3 in a row, and they're winless in their last 3, and they've dropped 5 spots. They've dropped out of the top row. Toronto. The Leafs. Now, the Leafs are a team. They made some moves. They were in on Mikko Rantanen, but from what I was hearing, and it was blocked. It was blocked by the player. But the Carolina Hurricanes were willing to give Mikko Rantanen to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Mitch Marner. 1 for 1. And Mitch Marner said no. Why? I don't know. Because, obviously, I don't think he I don't think he doesn't want to deal with anything contract wise until probably free agency. I think he really wants to test the market. Do I think he ends up staying in Toronto? It wouldn't shock me if he stays in Toronto. Toronto, of course, is going to have to belly up to the bar. They're going to probably have to offer him, even though Rantanen signed for 12, I think Marner's going to ask for more. I think Marner's probably going to ask for 12 and a half, 13. Is Toronto going to pay that? I don't know. But it wouldn't shock me if Marner wants to test the market. And Toronto's, again, they're in a division that is so brutal. It is insane. The top three teams in that, it's so brutal for Toronto. And I mean, yeah, Steve Dangle talks about them, and I'm just like, ask the NHL for a realignment. Has to be put in another division, because that might be the only way Toronto gets anywhere, because that division is just insane. Number 8, getting into the top row. They've won 3 in a row, even though they had to trade out. They traded for him, then they traded him out, which kind of still makes me wonder why they made the trade in the first place. And that's Carolina with Mikko Rantanen. Now, it was interesting hearing that Colorado called them. And it's the kind of thing where obviously Rantanen did not want. I mean, he didn't want to play in Carolina. It was obvious, because he didn't want to sign there. He didn't want to play there. And so Carolina is like, all right, well, let's try to get something back for him. And I still don't think they got enough back for him. But I just, I don't know. Carolina's still a good team. But yeah, it's looking like Rantanen did not really want to be there. And Rantanen did not really want to be traded out of Colorado, it seemed. And I don't know. But Carolina's, they're hanging in. They're in the top row, and they are right now. They are second in their division, which they're pretty much locked at second in the Metro. But we'll see if they can get any kind of movement. Speaking of the team that initially traded Mikko Rantanen at number 7, and that's Colorado. Now, as fans, just listening and reading some of the Avs fans' reactions to him now being in Dallas, they're not happy. The meltdowns. They are absolutely just, they're incredulous. They're just like, how in the hell did this happen? Obviously he wanted to play in Dallas. He wanted Dallas because he immediately signed an extension there, which I know Dallas went and said the impetus for that trade is he has to sign an extension. He was willing to sign the extension with Dallas. So Dallas is loaded up. And Colorado's still right there. Colorado has taken over third place in the division, where they will probably stay, and I think it would be very interesting. Mikko Rantanen ends up in Dallas, and it's entirely possible that could be a first-round matchup. Could be Dallas, Colorado. Mikko Rantanen against his old team. Ooh, sign me up for that one. Number 6. They move up one spot. They're on a 4-game win streak. And even though they're on a 4-game win streak, they've got the Oilers up behind them. They're creeping on them. That's Vegas. Vegas is at 6. They're looking good. They're looking really good. And yeah, Vegas is a team that they're first in the Pacific right now. They, of course, were another team that was in on Rantanen, because, of course, they were. Vegas is in on every big-name player that's out there. Vegas is always in on them. And Vegas is a team. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with come playoff time. It will be interesting to see who they play come round one, because they will be the favorite against whoever they play. But yeah, Vegas, they got to be a little careful because Edmonton's not that far behind them. Number 5, the winners of the Mikko Rantanen sweepstakes, the Dallas Stars. So the Dallas Stars, they make the big trade. They get Mikko Rantanen from Carolina. They give up Logan Stankoven. They give up a couple of firsts and 2 firsts and 2 thirds. Carolina, they don't really. I mean, they're hanging on to the 2 firsts and the 2 thirds. The one is a conditional first round pick. I was even trying to look up what the conditions were. I think it was top 10 protected. Not like Dallas is going to have a top 10 draft pick, but Dallas is a team that they've loaded up. They're ready for a playoff run. They're a team that has been in the Western Conference Final the last 2 years, and they want to take that next step. Can they do it this year? We shall wait and see. Number 4. Now they moved down a couple spots. They had a little bit of a rut, but now they've won 2 in a row. And the only reason they moved down a couple of spots is because some of these other teams they got passed. And that's the leaders of the Central Division, Winnipeg. The Jets the Jets didn't really do a lot during the trade deadline. I don't think they really necessarily needed to, but it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to win that division yet. Even though Dallas did lose, Dallas is right there. They're not that far behind. And Dallas, they have 1 game in hand on Winnipeg. And yes, they are 8 points behind, or Winnipeg is 8 points up on Dallas. Dallas did have a 4-game winning streak or 5-game winning streak up until they lost to the Oilers. So, I mean, I do think Winnipeg will end up winning the division, but it's gonna be tight. Number 3, moving up 2 spots. They've done pretty well this week. They've won 3 in a row. And back into the top 3, Washington. So the Capitals. The Washington Capitals, I mean, they pretty much have the Metropolitan Division on lockdown right now. I mean, they have a 12-point lead in the division. So I think the Capitals are in a really good spot. And I think the Capitals are a team that, again, regular season success is one thing. It's about the playoffs, though. What can they do in the playoffs? Just like Winnipeg. What are you going to do in the playoffs? It's great to be a good regular season team. But playoff time, what are you going to do come playoff time? Number 2. Now, I honestly thought about flip-flopping these guys, but these guys with some of the moves that they made at the trade deadline, yeah, they're prepared for a run too. Number 2 is Tampa. They dropped the 1 spot. Tampa Bay is it drives Steve Dangle nuts. It drives those guys on Steve Dangle, Adam Wilder. It drives those guys nuts to watch the Tampa Bay Lightning load up like this, and they hate being in this division. Toronto does, because Tampa is one of those teams. They're always right there. And honestly, it's entirely possible that Toronto or Tampa could overtake Toronto to overtake them for second place in the division. It's entirely possible. It's not outside the realm of possibility that they could catch the team that is number 1. The top 2 spots are dominated by the state of Florida. The Florida Panthers. Holy mackerel. They make some moves. They get Seth Jones. At the trade deadline, they get Brad Marchand from Boston. Oh my goodness. I mean, imagine having to deal with you've got Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand. Lord have mercy. I would almost, and apparently they were also in on Mikko Rantanen. You want to talk about a team that wants to get back to the Stanley Cup final for a 3rd year in a row and want to equal what their fellow Floridian team did, but win the cup again? Yeah. Florida is well prepared to do that. They really want to do this again. And I mean, with the moves that they've made, it would not surprise me. I think they probably are Washington has a better record, but right now, do you really bet against the Florida Panthers? Florida Panthers this week, number 1. What do you guys think about this week's Power Performance Index? And what do you think about the state of Florida dominating the top 2 spots? Let me know in the comments. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. That would be greatly appreciated. Share this video with everyone that you know. Whatever video you would like to share on the channel, go ahead and share those videos with your friends, family, with everybody that you know. Hell, share them with everybody that you don't know. And I would love to have every hockey fan in the world. I would love to have you all here with me on the channel. That would be fantastic. And yeah, we're getting down toward the nitty gritty here. We're getting down toward the last few weeks of the regular season. The playoff race is really starting to heat up, especially in the Eastern Conference. And yeah, so here is this week's Power Performance Index. Let me know your opinions in the comments. Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to know anytime future videos are uploaded, tap that little bell. That will notify you anytime future videos are uploaded. That way I know I can see you here again. And again, share the video with everyone that you know. And I will see you guys later.